What is crowd? How do you identify it? And most importantly, how do you use it to your advantage when trading? These are the topics we'll be discussing in this video lesson. Prior to the age of electronic trading, the term crowd referred to an individual or group of individuals on the floor of the exchange who are buying or shorting massive amounts of shares of a security. In this new, more technologically advanced era, crowd, in regards to trading, has taken on a different meaning. Crowd now is simply anyone that is disguising the actual amount of shares he or she is bidding or offering for security. Before, this ability to disguise was granted only to floor traders on the NYSE. However, now through ECNs, anyone can partake in crowd activity when submitting orders on ECNs such as ARCA, NASD, and BATS. The NYSE to this day still only permits crowd activity from traders actually on the New York Stock Exchange floor. Thus, crowd activity on the NYSE is typically larger and more meaningful in comparison to crowd activity on the ECNs, as floor traders on the NYSE are all very big traders, while the ECNs have traders of all sizes participating in them. So how do you identify crowd? Simple, by utilizing the time and sales window, also known as the tape. If there are more shares printing on the tape than what is represented on the limit order book of the NYSE or on the ECNs, then there is a hidden or reloading limit order present, which we call crowd. Remember, like with all buyers and sellers, a crowd buyer always appears on the bid, and a crowd seller always appears on the offer. For instance, let's say a stock is trading with a current quote of $30.25 by $30.26, with only 100 shares visible on the bid at $30.25. Moreover, there are numerous prints occurring on the tape at $30.25, totaling well over 25,000 shares. But the 100 shares to buy at $30.25 remains there the entire time. Thus, this clearly means there is a crowd buyer present with a large hidden order preventing the stock from going below $30.25. Because you cannot determine how many shares the crowd buyer actually has left, the only way to know when the buyer is actually gone is when prints occur through the temporary crowd buyer level that he has created. So in this case, we would know that the crowd buyer has given up purchasing the stock if the price reaches a price of $30.24 or lower. So what are the different ways crowd can appear on the tape? First, it is common to see crowd appear on the tape as a 1, which stands for 100 on either the bid or the offer. You can recognize the crowd present by the continuous stream of prints on the bid if it is a crowd buyer, or on the offer if it is a crowd seller. Now, 100 shares is obviously the fewest number of shares accepted on an NYSE order. Thus, the crowd buyer or seller is showing the absolute smallest number of shares possible in order to entice executions. The crowd buyer or seller does not show his full amount for fear that the large size of his order would scare price action away from the current quote price, forcing him to chase the stock price in order to be executed. Here's an example. This is the stock of J. Crew, ticker symbol JCG. From this snapshot, we see that a crowd buyer is present at $28.20, as the 100 shares on the bid remains even though numerous trades are executed at that price. Since there are no other orders visible at that bid price, you can conclude that there is a crowd buyer preventing the stock price from falling temporarily. Should the stock trade below $28.20, then you can determine that the crowd buyer has stepped away, thus signaling weakness. Okay, moving on to the second way to identify crowd. A crowd buyer or seller can appear as a random number, such as 17, which stands for 1,700 shares on the tape. You can recognize the crowd present by the continuous stream of prints on the bid or offer tallying well over the number displayed, which all the while remains fixed. For instance, let's say there is a crowd seller in a security at $27.80, showing 2,300 shares on the offer. Because of that crowd seller, the size being displayed on the tape for the bid remains constant at 2,300 shares, even though numerous buyers come in to purchase shares at $20.80 from the seller at that price. Now, crowd can sometimes also reload or refresh an order that is being displayed once that number begins to significantly dwindle down. For instance, let's use the same scenario as we just mentioned. A crowd seller at $20.80 is showing 2,300 shares on the offer. However, unlike in the previous example, this time the size displayed dwindles down with every transaction taking place at $20.80. So, if a print occurred at $20.80 for 500 shares, then the total shares displayed would decrease from 2,300 shares to 1,800 shares. But once that number being displayed gets close to zero, then the crowd seller immediately reloads the sell limit order for another 2,300 shares, thus insinuating the seller has much more size being offered than what is actually being displayed. Taking a look at this example, we see Caterpillar, ticker symbol CAT, with a crowd buyer at $63.60. We can spot the crowd buyer using the size represented on the NYSE tape, compared to the size represented on the NYSE limit book. Notice the extra 5,100 shares present on the tape compared to the limit book. This clearly means that there is a crowd buyer at $63.60 currently deciding to display 5,100 shares. Remember, this does not mean that this is all the shares he has currently bid at that price. In fact, it most likely means he has a lot more shares that is currently hidden. And finally, the third way crowd can appear on the tape is as an extraordinarily big bid or offer, such as 500, indicating 50,000 shares. Believe it or not, these are the type of orders you have to be the most wary of, as these are the most likely to back away. The reason is simple. If you were truly buying a bunch of shares at a price that you thought was a bargain, would you make it blatantly obvious, especially before you had entered? Of course not. You would be as discreet as possible. Hence, the reason why most skilled crowd buyers or sellers display the minimum amount of shares when entering or exiting. Therefore, when you see very large crowd freely being displayed, it is most likely a bluff. Do not be surprised to see that very large order vanish. Ultimately, crowd is most useful to you when it is present at a major level, such as a support or resistance level, a moving average, and or a trend line. This is when it is easy to decipher what the crowd buyer or seller is trying to accomplish, and determine if you choose to go with the crowd or against it. When going against the crowd, it is important to remember only to enter once the crowd has been officially broken and has printed a price through the level created, because you never know how much the crowd buyer or seller really has until it has completely exhausted itself. From this snapshot of 3M, ticker symbol MMM, we see a downtrending stock chart with price action currently testing its trend line and moving average. Technically, this chart on its own looks interesting to traders, as the stock can bounce off its trend line and continue its downward trend, or break through the level, and reverse. However, we not only have the stock chart telling us this, we also have the crowd seller present at $68.75, confirming the importance of this level. We can spot the crowd seller by taking the difference of the share size on the tape compared to that of the NYSE limit book. Thus, by subtracting the 6,200 shares on the tape from the 1,200 shares on the limit book, we see that there is a 5,000 share crowd seller currently at the very important level. This crowd seller is clearly trying to keep the stock moving downward and prevent it from reversing its trend. Therefore, you can choose to take a short position anticipating the crowd seller will hold the level firm, or buy the stock as soon as it breaks and prints a price of $68.76 or higher. Both produce great opportunities as risk to reward ratios are easily met. Keep in mind that crowd should never be your only reason for entering and exiting a trade. You should always consider your checklist and weigh all the variables. Furthermore, crowd buyers and sellers can cause price action to get whippy. Therefore, have a set plan when entering into a trade where crowd activity is present. With that said, every tape reading trader understands the importance of recognizing crowd, as they are frequently found at key levels. Being able to comfortably identify and diagnose crowd activity will help you piece together price action and raise your level of trading.